My name's Nate. I run Jesus People SF. Today I want to talk about what would cause God to call not the old covenant people, but the new covenant people, the church, adulteresses. What a scandalous thing. The text in question is James chapter 4. And here James says, "You adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is hostility toward God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Or do you think that the Scripture speaks to no purpose? He jealously desires the Spirit which he has made to dwell in us." Now, the fact that God has called his own people, not even that far past Jesus' earthly ministry, adulteresses, is concerning. Now, if you remember the actual reason why God rejected Judaism, you have an explanation in Luke chapter 14. And here's really the whole reason why something that God would set up like Judaism or Christianity would really go bad. And here we have a parable. In Luke 14, verse 16, he said unto him, "A certain man made a great supper and bade many." So he's calling people to the supper. "And he sent his servant at supper time to say to them that were bidden, Come, for all things are now ready. And they all with one consent began to make excuse." So God is calling, right? God is calling. And they don't got time because God is the person calling for the supper in this story. And the people being called just don't have time. Listen, they began to make excuse. The first said unto him, "I have bought a piece of ground or a piece of land, and I must needs go see it. I pray thee, have me excused." Here's God to such a person. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Here's the second person. "And another said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I go to prove them," or I go to check them out, see if they're any good. "I pray thee, have me excused." Verse 20. "And another said, I've married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. So that servant came and showed his lord these things. And the master of that house, being angry, said to his servant, Go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in hither the poor, the maimed, the halt, and the blind. And the servant said, Lord, it is done as thou hast commanded, and yet there is room. And the Lord said unto the servant, Go out into the highways and hedges, and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. For I say unto you, that none of those men which were bidden shall taste my supper." Now, it would actually seem to be that God is the one being the friend of the world, if you don't know what world means in the book of James here. So in James, when it says friendship with the world is hostility toward God, you would think that would mean, oh, you got to cloister away. You got to be only friends with church folk, right? Wrong. What's the problem here in Luke chapter 14? It's a bunch of people that are supposed to be about the master, and they have no time for him when he calls them, right? It's not when he doesn't call them that he needs them. He needs them when he calls them. And they have excuses. They have stuff. And really, what is it that they have? They are putting the world before God. And so their mistress is stuff, is things. Because when God needs them, they are not there. They want stuff. They want to make sweet carnal affection toward those things. And so they are adulteresses. Here is essentially the whole reason in all of human history why God's people tend to fall away. They just love this world. They want it so bad. They want this life now. As the famous unchristian book says, your best life now. And so, another example in the Old Covenant would be here in Jeremiah 7. And now because you have done these things, that is all the things he's describing above that are bad, declares Yahweh, and I spoke to you Here's the real grief in Yahweh, is that he spoke to you early, rising up early and speaking, but you did not hear. And I called to you, but you did not answer. Now listen to verse 14. What does it say here? What is their trust? These are the people of Yahweh, but he's already established, look, he spoke to them. He spoke early, but they didn't want to hear. Yahweh called, but they didn't want to answer. But they still want religion. They still want Yahweh's religion. Listen. Therefore, I will do to the house which is called by my name, in which you trust, and to the place which I gave to you and your fathers, as I did to Shiloh. Shiloh was the original place of the tent of tabernacle, and God blew it up. And I will cast you out of my sight, as I have cast out all your brothers, all the offspring of Ephraim. So at this point in Israel's history, the northern kingdom, Israel was divided between two kingdoms. The northern kingdom had been clobbered by Assyria because God sent judgment. And you see it here in Jeremiah 7. It's just the same theme we've been talking about already. They're adulteresses. They have no place for God. I mean, yeah, they've got a place for religion. Oh, that religion hits the spot. But God? Oh, no. You see, because this is religion to God right here. Religion to God is I spoke and you hear. But instead, the people want a house that is called by God's name. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Religion that's merely composed of being obsessed with a house, a place, some kind of gathering? Does that sound familiar? When it comes down to it, religion that is merely rote, that is merely ritual, that is merely habitual activities is useless to God. Certainly God sets up ritual, activity, habitual things according to his religion, but true religion to God is simply come, for all things are now ready, except the people being so obsessed with this life and this world, do this right here. Make excuse. They're busy with their land. They're busy with their business or oxen. They're busy making sweet affection with their wife. They have no place for God. And if your religion is simply Sunday morning Bible studies, etc., I very much doubt that if that is the substance of what religion is to you, that you have ears to hear. That when God says, and I spoke to you early, rising up and speaking, that you're going to be the person, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. I'm running to do what you're saying, Lord. No. You're going to be the person that says, I don't have time for that. I've got an oxen. I've got a wife. Oh man, I just bought a sweet property. You gotta come this week and bring the kids. And ultimately, that's what I see in Christianity right now. It's about this world. That's what the whole Christian nationalism movement is about. Let's make our sweet, sweet kingdom now, because we certainly don't have it to come, right? Because that's the person who, when God talks, you're listening. This is Nate from Jesus People SF. Have a good day.